Hello, everyone, and welcome to the 11th episode of the Stack to Eat podcast. It's been great to realize that we have crossed the 10 episodes mark. That itself is at least a milestone from my side. Thanks for all the support from everyone who has participated in the podcast so far and everyone who's been listening and giving me feedback. Here's hoping to 100 episodes and beyond. With that uh, celebration done, let's start with today's episode. We have with us Sudhakar, who is currently a consultant with Tarka Labs and is also having a startup. And the topic that we are going to be talking about today is about being a tech startup co-founder and what the experience was like, especially for Sudhakar in this startup. And he's also currently involved with the startup in a more in a part-time way. So let's talk about his experience with the startup journey. Hey, welcome, Sudhakar. Would you like to introduce a bit about yourself?
Hey Manoj, yeah, definitely. So yeah, I don't go with big titles usually. So I call myself a software plumber because I like plumbing stuff and I like to build software. And so yeah, professionally speaking, I've been a full stack developer and I've been messing around with multiple technology stacks, right? And I also had a little bit of testing the waters with the DevOps, and I was trying to do things with that. So overall, yeah, so that's my comfort zone where I would like to build software, and also that led me to other things that we're going to discuss today.
Great. So before we begin talking about your startup journey per se, right? Can you talk a bit about what was the business case that you wanted to tackle and you are currently tackling with the startup that you co-founded?
Definitely, yeah. So this all started because of my friend. Okay, so I know him when I was in Seattle, and he was my next to roommate, meaning we were also staying in one place. And then he was in my next house. So we worked in the same project, and we kind of know him, and we all were discussing about things. And when he came back to India, we were still in touch, and then he has this idea where the current landscape, the sports landscape, especially for the local talent, especially for the kids, and especially for a casual sport, there is no such a platform or an avenue for someone to go and play or get trained, proper training, right? Have events so that they can compete with each other, know where they are, and try to get better at local sporting events, right? It could be tennis, basketball, table tennis, it could be anything, right? And he saw that he is basically very interested into sports. Even when we were there, he is very regular with different kinds of sports. He plays cricket there. He had a team, and we also plays tennis and all that. So when he came back, he really felt that okay, that was a very good recreational plus health benefit to it. And he thought, okay, then there should be something that we can do in this space. And then he started. He obviously he did not start with okay, let us build software, right? Ideally, it's not the right way to do it, right? Understand the domain and try to see what is the real problem. So he was understanding the domain, what how things are set up, how sports centers are set up, right? How the coaches are perceived, what are their constraints. He was on the ground for nearly 6 months, and he was doing this as a side gig when he was consulting with another company. At the time, then whatever based on what he learned and some of the events that he conducted just with Excel sheets and simple forms and all that, he had a pretty good idea. And then then I came into this, and then we started building something around it.
That sounds like a very nice use case. And before we talk more about how you solved it from more from a technology point of view, I wanted to understand like what was your career looking at that point in time, and what factors motivated you to take the plunge to into the startup world, right? So where were you placed from your career perspective, and what was your thought process around? Okay, let me go from this startup.
Yeah. So I at the time I was with the ThoughtWorks, and I was a lead developer. I was managing teams. By the time I know how to build software, what it matters, what it takes to actually get a team organized, build the software in the right way, right? Build the right product, and what needs to be worried, how to what things to actually discuss about and worry about and get things. So I kind of understand very clearly at that time what it takes to build a software, right? But that still is a smaller scope, meaning building software is not the whole picture, right? How to get it to the customers, what it takes for them to use it, are we really solving the right problem? The business side of things are kind of not known to me at that time, and it's kind of I connect with business analysts and all the product owners, but I have not played that role, or I did not wear that hat. So then I felt, okay, see, now I have the capability to build something. Now, okay, then the next logical question for me was, okay, now what can I build, and what problem can I solve? And when I was looking around and discussing with people, I came to know about Ananda. So on that I was talking about, right, Sport India. He had this idea, and I kind of connected with the idea because I was also looking on that line, saying that, hey, why kids are just stuck with mobile devices? Why they don't have any other mechanism, escape mechanism, or any other strategy, any other way that they can go out and do things, right? And then I thought, okay, we should definitely give it a try.
You decided to take the plunge, right? So, what were the next steps from your perspective, and how did the initial days look like? And you start talking about the evolution of the startup. How did you go about setting up the initial tech setup for it? What were the initial challenges, and then also describe the story around where we are right now.
So I think this part will be more or less, many might have heard usually what happens. Right? So for example, I've been in a very comfortable job, right? Which has a very good work-life balance, right? Not works kind of. Sometimes you'll have ups and downs, but most of the services companies, you have that balance. You have the freedom to decide when to work, what to work, and take leaves and all that. So that's kind of a comfortable position, right? And leaving that comfort and leaving that regularly, earning the job, given that I had a family and I had a kid, right? At the time I had one kid. It was like, not, it's not easy, right? So it's like, okay, now you are trying to get into the uncertainty, right? Saying that, oh, okay, what happens if this startup is it going to grow, or is it going to become a big thing that at least it, it can make that equivalent income to me, like what I'm able to do now, at least maybe in 6 months or 1 year. So there are so many questions, like any other startup when you jump, right? But what helped me, or what was very convenient, or what made me to take the jump, is because at that time I already moved to Tarka Labs, and Tarka Labs as a company has a very very different strategy. So they say, hey, we are here and we wanted to work for clients, and we wanted to work on the kind of work that we like to do. So 8 hours of the day is for you, and then the rest of the time it doesn't matter. You can actually get paid. You can do work for other projects. You can work your startup. They were very liberal in that, saying that it's completely okay, and we encourage that. That's how there was talking. And Wagni is the one who started that labs. I know him before, and so there was a discussion about all that. And then I said, okay, fine. Then I joined the labs, and then I was working in that labs, and then I also said that, okay, I have this idea, I wanted to do this, so I'll take a break, right? I thought I'll take 3 months break, and then I went out, and now 3 months I can easily offset with my savings that I had, so that I don't need to get paid for that 3 months. So I went out, and this interestingly, I think all the things came together. Why? Because the problem that I am trying to solve with Anand is not a huge thing. Meaning the platform that we wanted to build, and we were discussing about the scope, what needs to be built for the MVP, what is that we wanted to focus on. It all nicely fit in that 3 months window when we tried to break them down and see what it takes to build it, right? And then we thought, okay, now this is a logical point for me to actually break it and give it a try. So I could say, no, it's pretty not very no risk, very little risk for me to try this out. And so as I thought, I went out and then I started building this. And as you know, like usually estimates are never actuals. So in 3 months of what I thought I'll be able to get done, actually took more or less the same time, but no, I ended up doing more over time per se, but I liked it because it was like you will get that adrenaline rush of something, building something new from the scratch and all that, right? So it was hectic, but still, no, I was able to get that done because I was the only developer who was building all of that, right? And then it's like three-tier architecture. It has database, it has an API server, and it has front end. And so I was building all the three components, and I wanted to build it the right way so that there was like 90% test coverage, because so that it will be easy for me to go and make changes and evolve it in the future. And I totally relied on that idea that it should be easy for me to make incremental changes, right? I should not be worrying about, oh, what will I break when I touch something, right? And the code base evolved to be pretty decent big, right? I mean, it had at least 50 models, and then we had the RESTful. It's based on RESTful endpoints, so it had at least 30 RESTful endpoints with all current operations that can be done. And we built a Vue.js based UI, So it was a pretty mid-size software that we built at the end. But yeah, so that was a great learning I had. I hope I answered your
So
question, or did I diverge?
yeah, I have a couple of questions just to understand from a timeline perspective, right? So what are the timelines that we're talking about? How long has it been since the startup was founded, right? And and I think now you are doing it as a part-time thing also, right? So how much time do you spend, say, per week? How much time do you spend on the startup?
Yeah, so this actually, whatever that I'm talking about, the Sport India started 4 years before, right? Before 4 years, when you ask about the time, you're talking about the time that I spent on in that 3 months, or you're talking about the overall whole timeline.
Yeah, overall beyond the 3 months, and say beyond the 3 months, the initial say 6 months, and then
Yeah.
now it's been 4 years, right? So how's the time that you have been spending with the startup changing or evolving over that time?
Yeah. So it's always no. It's like okay. In the first 3 months, as I said, it was hectic. It was like I think I was literally coding 13 to 14 hours every day. I was sitting in front of a machine, and good that my family was not here, meaning they went to my wife's place. So I was just having that summer holidays time overlap nicely. So I was just sitting in front, literally sitting in front of the Mac, and then I was just coding it. And that is the peak, right? Once I got all the minimum viable product features out, and it is already put into test. So because Anand was not like he's not starting this business new, meaning he was already conducting events on the ground. He had a good crowd of tennis players who are very interested to try out this platform. So the moment at the end of 2 months, we are able to put it out in production, and we started organizing events using this platform, right? So people started signing up, and the sports centers data that we had around thousands sports centers data across four cities, right? Bangalore, Hyderabad, Chennai, and also Coimbatore. So we started loading all the data in, and you can search, you can find a sports center near you, and you can actually start looking at the past events also. We loaded all the data in. So in at the end of 2 months, we kind of have something that is production ready, and people we are getting feedback from them already, right? So then it took some time for us to actually fine tune the problems that we saw, especially with payment gateway and OTP integration, SMS OTP integration. We had some issues with that, and to iron them out. And then some the usability that was a problem initially, because the crowd that we are building for is not just for someone who's already computer literate, but also usually the parents who are going to sign up for their kids, they are not very computer literate, right? So changing the usable UX so that it is easy for them to sign up. And we are getting calls, the customer support calls, and then based on that feedback, we are tweaking the UI and all that. But at the end of 3.5 months, we kind of sense that okay, it is pretty stable now. Whatever features that we wanted to put out, it is pretty stable, and we know that this whatever that we have built, it is enough for us to go, for 6 months just to connect to sports centers, trying to onboard more coaches and sports centers, and trying to onboard more events in. So we are good. So then we started planning, okay, in the next 6 months, what is that we wanted to do? Right? There were multiple things that Anand was thinking, right? Say, for example, he wants to get also the sponsors, meaning you have these companies who manufacture sports equipments, balls, rackets, and all. So they'll be very interested in such a platform. Why? Because now they are going to get a direct connection to the people. They can also get the feedback from them, right? So then we were trying to build modules around that. We also wanted to build modules so that the sports centers, whoever is running the sports center, they can use our system to manage the players who are like regulars. There are like coachings happening, right? So we started slowly building the other modules, and we started integrating them as we go on. And after the 3 months, since I went part time, meaning whenever I get time, I'll at least spend 20 hours per month. So that was the deal between me and my founder, Anand, the co-founder. Right? He's not technical. He's totally taking care of the business side of things on the ground. So I'll make sure that I'll spend at least 20 hours, and we'll have a roadmap saying that we'll have a Trello board saying that hey, these are the things that we wanted to build. Let us try to build them as soon as possible with a plan. And we slowly started adding more features over a period of 3 years, right? And that worked very well because there is no big team, and we had on and off couple of consultants, which I know for sure that they're good and they can actually get things done easily. So I onboarded them on and off, and they were working like, okay, this epic or this features, and they build it and they move away. right? And it was easy for them also because the code was pretty manageable and there was enough test coverage, so they can jump in, make changes, and then see whether things are working or not. I can review them easily because I know the code, and that's how we evolved slowly over a period of 3 4 years, and that is what is happening also now.
So how's that experience been, especially with you being part time and then also having to coordinate with other
Yeah.
consultants that might be in the team, right? So how is sort of like bug fixes or maintenance mode and maybe building one odd feature here and there looking like now?
Yeah. So I think this, at least for the Sport India, it worked very well because I know Anand and he's not a person who's pushy, right? Saying that, hey, I need this feature by this week. I mean, that's never the kind of understanding that we had, right? And but for critical issues, right, that is going to break, say someone is not able to sign up or someone is not able to make a payment, right? Those are critical. But fortunately, we had very, very less of those issues. If I can remember, there were two issues that both were related to payment related. We were missing some payments and we were actually not handling the payment redirects properly on our side, and these also surfaced very early in the game, right? And after that it was never like, oh, this system is broken. It was not that way because I know, as I was telling you, right, so I set up CI in such a way so that I also set up deployments, automated deployments, so it's easy for me to just push latest releases if there is anything rolled back. So I kind of had many things automated in place so that I'll not be the person who will be like spending more time on that. So I made sure that it is there. I built the setup in such a way so that I can work in this model without me being the bottleneck, right? And we had some situations where the server went down, right, because it's built on Ruby on Rails, and we were using a very small. I think we were using micro at that time, EC2 instance. And one deployment, I think it actually started using a lot more memory because of one RESTful endpoint that was doing a lot of data loads, and then it was crashing. And that also we just restarted, and then I took my time, a week time, just to fix that and bring it back so that it does not happen again. So to answer your question, yes, it was manageable. Why? Because the foundation, this is what I think, the foundation of how we built it was pretty stable, so that there were not many issues, and the way things were evolving was not very parallel. It is not like I had a team and then they were changing things left, right, and center. It was not that way.
Yeah. So if you have to give advice to people who want to become co-founders or founders or especially tech co-founders, right? What would your advice be, especially around taking risks, and then what are the legal aspect of things? That's something that I'm more interested in as well. Like, what are the things that someone must be aware of, especially if it's the first time that you're going to be like part of the founding team of a startup and you're more from the tech side of things, right? So, what would your advice be to those folks?
Okay, so I'm not sure whether I'm in a position to advise because,
Mm.
to be frank, after 4 years, right? So as after our startup is not like I will never say that, oh, this is successful. We are able to make loads of money, no, right? Only in the last year, no, we were able to break even. Meaning, this problem, I mean, the problem that the domain that we picked, software part is actually not very critical. Meaning, the on the ground operations is very high. We need to have people on the ground go travel, meet sports centers, convince the sports center to say that why this software is useful for them, and conduct events. Conducting events on the ground, the sport event is actually pretty hard. I was there for a couple of events initially, and after that also, it is very hard. I mean, it is hard to deal with the people of different tempers and their constraints, their requirements, and all. So that I think is the most critical part of this whole business. I think it ended up being that, right? So in that aspect, so breaking even is a big deal. Why? Because we were having at least 20 members in our team to take care of non-technical aspects at one point in time, right? So yes, we are. This is still a journey. The way that I see it is, right. So instead of worrying about the end, this 3 years have actually taught me a lot. In seeing how to what it takes to run a business, other than what it takes to build a software. Because as I was telling, I kind of know what it takes to build a software based on my past experience, right? But to integrate the software that we built and make it run as a successful business, that is a different ballgame. And we are still learning that. And given this Corona pandemic, we are hard hit. Meaning, obviously, there are no events that is going to happen now. There are sports centers are they're just closed, right? No kids or parents are not all ready to send their kids out for valid reason, right? So in the last 2 3 months, it's a lull, right? So we are keeping afloat. We have our team, and then they are just doing all the back office work, saying that okay, what are the data that we can find about the sports centers that are out there? Let us load the data. Let us try to connect to our existing connects and all that. But it is still a hurdle, right? Maybe next 3-4 months is going to be hard for us. I think that is what is a big learning to me. And so advice per se, I think maybe just sharing my experience will be of a great insight based upon the listeners where they are in their journey, what their strengths are, what will work out, what will not work out, and maybe we can also discuss with the specific context in place to say whether I can be of any more help to them in sharing my experience, right? But yeah, I think we should take risks. If there is something that I want to say, yes, don't be so afraid to take risks, but also do calculated risks, right? So I also did the same. I don't want to just have not jump blindly. I wanted to have some backups so that my family is not affected, right? And then I took a calculated risk, and I would say, no, I'm happy with the outcome, even though we are not financially successful yet. This journey is nice, and I had learned definitely.
Okay, to ask the same question but in a very slightly different way. So, if you were given a chance to change one thing or say one or two things in the last 4 years that you have done, right? Be it some of the decisions that you have made from tech perspective or some other business decision that you were involved in and so on, right? So, what is the main one thing that if you wanted to do it differently, or one or two things maybe that
Yeah,
you
I
would
think
do
I have
differently?
lot.
What is the
Yeah.
top one thing
Yeah,
that
so
you would
in tech,
change?
right? Yeah, in tech, I think so. The API server that I built was like, no, it has 95% coverage. So I'm always very confident to make any change there. But UI did not happen that way. So I used Vue.js and I built, using Vue.js. And so I was like, okay, it's always not very easy to write automated tests and functional tests, click-driven tests for UI. And given the other usual time constraints, the coverage for the UI is very less. So I think if I had spent time there also, I think I'll be more confident to make UI changes. Even now, UI changes, I'll take a back step and say, okay, I need some more time. I'll just make sure that I do it slowly because I know that there is no automated way for me to validate that things will not break, right? So that is one tech side, and the technology choices I don't have much of a regrets or things that I wanted to change. Why? Because as I was telling, right, the scale and the domain and the scope of this project is not huge that I need to worry about scaling issues. Right, I can easily scale it with the needs or the demands that I'm seeing. So right now we have 8K users, right, and that's it. And maybe it will grow to what 50K users. We still can grow, right? If Twitter can move out of Ruby on Rails the moment they see the traction, I think we can also do it once if we get to that level or maybe, right? But on the business side, yes, there are actually a lot of learnings. Meaning, so they always say hindsight is 2020, right? So if you look back, it is very easy to say, oh, this is a mistake that we should have avoided. But if you are looking forward, it's kind of very hard because there are so many things that we will not know, will not be able to predict, right? So in that aspect, so if we had done a lot more research on what matters to the business owners, right? What actually matters to the sports center owners. So we got the players' perspective very well because players were very happy with the platform. They are actually the one who are giving motivations to do this, do that, and all that. But from the business owners' side, it was very hard to understand what is that their problem, what is that they wanted to solve, right? 2 years down the line, we kind of realized that okay, maybe we are not solving that core problem or the problem that they give first priority to, right? We were giving nice to have features instead of actually trying to solve their core problem. If we had focused on that core problem, which might need some more market analysis or trying to connect with the people or maybe work in the sports center, that would have given us more insights. I don't know. But if that, I think that we clearly saw that it's a miss. So the effort that we put on onboarding sports centers was not at all successful. So we built actually a lot of features around that. So they're managing their players, sending notifications, giving the reminders about payments, also slot booking. We have actually built a lot of features, but they were not effective in the sense they were not taken, they were not used per se.
I think the biggest takeaway from your journey, at least for me, is take the right amount of risk given the situation that you are in your life. No, don't be 2 hours of risk, but do mitigate them as much as you can and take the right amount that you can swallow. Right. I think that was the key aspect that I could learn from your journey. So to extend that a bit, right? So with this experience and with the amount of risk that you have taken, right? Say an opportunity comes up to create another startup, would you have an appetite to take even more risk,
But
knowing that
definitely,
I could feel that because I think once you learn it in a bit and you do realize that okay, I've taken some amount of risk, probably you'll take a slightly bigger risk the next time, I
yeah.
suppose.
So I think next time when I take it, right, that's what I have been thinking.
Mhm.
So the next time, before I jump into such an opportunity, I will also do the market analysis and understand from the business angle, because now I think I'm a bit more equipped to understand from that side, right? So I'll
Yeah,
also before yes, I had some understanding, but now I think I'll be able to do a better job in really validating that, and then jump in and build something like this, right? So, but yes, if all the things connect like how it happened with Anand and Sport India, yes, why not? I can also offer to have 3 months of non-salary, so I will definitely jump in, or 3 months or 6 months, whatever that is, depending upon other factors taken in.
great. Yeah, I do have a lot more questions around your experience with Vue.js and all that, but that would be outside the topic of it because I'm personally working a lot with Vue.js right now and
Oh,
I'm
nice.
loving it as well. Maybe that can be a different episode. But those covers most of the questions that I wanted to ask you from journey of a startup tech co-founder perspective, right? Thanks a lot, Sudhakar. Any other closing comments or thoughts from your side?
Yeah, thanks for having me here, Manoj. And definitely, so you have reached a two-digit with your podcast. No, three-digit is just there. Don't no continue doing this.
Sure, thanks. Yeah, I want to do it because I started blogging and then I spent a lot more time trying to tweak my blogging platform than blogging, right? So when I started with the podcast, I didn't want to do any of that because I see a lot of people have their websites for their podcast, do a lot of fancy video editing and all that, but I just wanted to focus on the content at least for now. So most of the things are minimal, not focusing a lot around the peripheral items, right? Just focus on content, talking with people, and it's been a great learning experience as well.
And it's very useful. So I think no, sharing experiences, listening to other people, right? It's very useful for us to
Yeah,
actually get insights of what actually is out there, and so that's why I feel your podcasts are very valuable to the people.
sure. Thanks a
Thanks for
lot
doing that.
for the feedback as well, Sudhakar. Yeah, thanks for taking time. Maybe we can have a future call around UI, front end, and on different tech topics as well, and also to see where you are in the future based on your career
Definitely.
path as well. Yeah, thanks a lot, Sudhakar.
Yeah.